So recently I slapped a hood from this Green Goblin set on Green Arrow and I repainted them more classic colors, and I was going to do Arsenal, and then I noticed something. These bows are freaking awful. They're loose, limpy dick. They're really strange. The thread is too thick. This is a real mess. So I was like, well, before I put any love in the paint work, I want to figure out how to fix that bow. And coincidentally, when I was at Hobby Lobby, I discovered some things in the same section that will also improve that lasso. So let's talk improving bows for mostly all, I guess that makes sense, for most of your action figures today on Toy Gains. So here's the plan. I got this wire. The gauge is 20 gauge, $1.50. So even if this doesn't work, well, I guess I drew in the bow. But whatever. This was only $1.50. Okay. Got a fresh X-Acto blade. My plan is to make an incision, not a little notch somewhere on the bow. This one has the coil, so you could add tension if this was a real bow. So I'm going to try to fit it in there and then just glue it. I like to keep shit simple here on Toy Gains, and hopefully this works. And all this is under $10. This was $3. This was $1.50. Now, then I saw this gold, really thin, nice gold wire. And right around the corner was cord. This is the exact shit they used for this deluxe collector's edition Wonder Woman. This cheap, albeit nice looking cord. I am going to try to thread this through there, okay, and get a wired cord. Let's hope it all works out. Let's go inside where it's a little warmer. I won't be working here. I will be working inside with some fucking coffee and snacks and the dog bothering me. So let's go in there. Okay, if you hear an Australian guy talking in the background, that is DC Multiverse Dude. I happen to have his video on, and I just forgot to turn it off. Anyway, this wire, it just has to go. Regardless if I think I can do this or not, this is no loss. So I'm just gonna get it on the table, and I'm gonna make the clean cut. Maybe I should get some underneath this. This is a wood table, and I don't wanna get yelled at by the wife. Boom. Boom. Now we got a new stringless bow. Got my wire that was very cheap. This was $1.50, so it's like you could probably use this for wired capes as well and all kinds of fun stuff. So I bring my cutter in here. So the issue is going to be you want to get this obviously nice and straight as it coils out. As straight as possible. You want it to look like a nice tense string. And you're gonna line it up. Doesn't look tight. This is the one thing I had a concern with. I hope that shows up. You want this to look, you want to improve this project and product. You don't, but look at that freaking nuttiness. Okay, so you want to get your length and you're going to cut it where you think you're going to place it in there. And I would give yourself some room. Maybe, you know what? We'll get wire cutters. I'm back with my little tool, little wire cutting tool. Now with the head of the pliers, you can actually squeeze it to sort of straighten it. You know what I mean? You're gonna go through each little section. You want that to look straight. Like I mentioned, we want to improve this. So I think, is that not, it looks good enough. And I got it at a good length. Look at that. See my bow? No? I've never filmed like this, so this is kind of goofy. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the blade and I'm going to probably split this down the middle. Okay? I'm going to split that down the middle. I'm going to pop this in there. And then I'm going to put a little glue in there. And then I'm going to hold it and do it to the other end. And hopefully when I come back, we'll have a nice bow and the magic will have happened. Wish me luck. Okay, I don't know if that's going to pick up on camera. It's tough. So I took the blade and I made a split in that tension wheel for this bow. Each bow is going to be different. For the green arrow bow that I guess I misplayed. No. For this one, it might be different. For this one, I split that wheel and I'm going to take this wire and slide it in there. And I can't do this with one hand, so I apologize. So for the lasso, you're going to take your cord, and believe it or not, there is a rope inside there. I'm going to have to pull it out with these needle nose, and then you're going to rethread that same black wire through there. I was going to use the gold, but it's so thin and floppy, there's going to be too much stress forcing it through, and that's not going to be able to push it in there. So I'm going to do this off camera, and I will be honest with you, if it's a pain in the ass, the idea, there's a little tiny white rope in there. See the white in my dirty fingernails? You're going to pull it through there. So again, wish me luck. So this part was not easy. My boy Toy Collector JR on IG, I first saw this idea. I messaged him. He's a talented customizer. You got your rope here, okay? There is a white thread in there that looks like this when yanked out, kind of like a shoelace, if you will. You got to yank it out of this, and then you're going to feed your wire through there, and then I'll show you what that looks like now. Not fun, but if I can do it, you can do it. Okay, let's take a look at what we got. I've learned some things while I was in there, both about these bows and about myself. I'm losing patience each day. Some of these things, like on paper, I thought it would be really simple, especially the lasso. I think the issue, first of all, I think it looks better, right? Right? I think it looks much better. And with this design, I was able to get it. Once I paint this black, I'm going to repaint this whole bow. Maybe I should have did that. I'm going to make that silver. I'm going to make it black to look like the bow is stringing around that. Like I said in the little tutorial, I sliced through there and glued it. It should stay. I don't want to tug it too much. That's what she said, because I don't want it to break. But it looks better. I think I would have went for a different gauge, maybe a smaller wire. This way, you could really get it tighter, and you could straighten it. The smaller the gauge as you pull it, the easier it will be straight. If that makes any sense. You're yanking on something thin, less tension. Something thicker, you need them pliers. But I think it's a much improved over what we had. Looks a little more realistic. Now, with Green Arrow, because he's more of an old school archer, I went cheap. I went old school. This is how bow and arrows were back in like the day. Like just wrapped up, the tension was just wrapped around. But that allows this to, boing, you know, it's not going to pull back because it's a wire, not a string. But you can play with it. You could pose them. You know what I mean? It's like articulated almost. You could pose it and get it to stay that way. And then you just got to fool around with it. I just wrapped it around the top and then tightened it with the needle nose pliers. That was like the cheap, lazy way, but I think it works for a Green Arrow. So I think this was a success. I don't think it's like a a roaring success, but I think it's improved, and it only cost me $1.50. Like I said, you can get a thinner gauge to make it look like real string. But look at that. Is that picking up? I think it's better, especially that one. It's more clean. If I wanted to do this, maybe you can get a real thin hole in there, or maybe notch it, like a cut through there. But I think it works. I think it works. I'll have pictures of them with their bows. Let's move on to the lasso of truth, which was the lasso of finding out of how impatient I am. So this is, like I said, it's very similar wire to what McFarlane gave us. You have to put that same black wire that was $1.50. After you rip that string out, now this is articulated, okay? It wasn't that easy. And you could wrap this up and make it look like that. To thread that in there, to first of all, to pull that out was sort of a chore. None of this was that expensive. So give it a shot. Maybe for you, you can yank that right out. I'm not that good of a yanker, I guess. I will now have pics of her also with the lasso. And I think overall this was worth, this all cost me $10. So it's up to you. Also, if you could subscribe, you know, it's crazy. 80% of the people who watch my videos don't subscribe. I don't know if that means they're like, F this guy, he was okay. I don't really need this in my life. And if that's the case, that's fine. But if you're here for the first time or you haven't subscribed yet, please consider it. Have another video up tomorrow. Take care. Have fun as always.